We will move on to Silje Tjomlid, who is a customer success manager at Norse, and Norse is our partner. She will talk about the SEO trends for 2021 and also about the important connection between the SEO and universal design. Silje.
Great. Thank you. All right. Yeah, as Steve said, my name is Silje Tjomlid. I work as a customer success manager at Norse. Thank you guys for having me. So what I do is well, it's kind of in the name, it's a customer success manager. So my job is to make sure that when we have clients and their projects go live, for example, a website or an app or whatever, my job is to make sure that they achieve the success they want. So part of success is obviously SEO and accessibility. So those, I'm going to be talking a bit about those two today. So I don't know how much all of you know about SEO. So I have a few slides here. So SEO stands for search engine optimization, which is the practice of increasing the quantity and quality of traffic to your website through non-paid, meaning free or meaning organic search engine results. So whenever you talk about Google Ads or you talk about Facebook or LinkedIn advertising, SEO is not a part of that. So we're only talking about the organic search engine results. So the way it works is that all search engines have a search engine result page. On this page, websites and other content like videos and local businesses and also shopping, that's become very, very big the latest years, will be displayed and ranked based on what the search engine consider most relevant to the searcher. So that is something we'll touch on a bit later as well, what is relevant for the searcher. So working with SEO means making changes in web design, web content, code that makes your website more attractive to a search engine. And by doing these changes, we are hoping that the search engine will display our website as a top result, meaning that whenever someone searches for shoes, for example, and if we are a website selling shoes, then obviously we want to be at the very top of the search engine result page. So the way it works is that a search engine will scan or crawl all of the different websites to better understand what the website is about. And this crawl is helping search engines to deliver more relevant results to the searchers looking for information about subjects or keywords. And the way this works is that the search engines will scan your website to understand how easy it is to navigate, how easy it is to read, and search engines will reward websites that are mobile first, user-friendly, and accessible. So if we take Google, for example, at least in Norway, the most search, or that's the search engine that's used in like 95% plus. So let's talk about Google. So Google says that they are rewarding mobile first, user-friendly, and accessible websites. So how has SEO evolved lately? In 2020, we see that businesses have to close their physical stores. This is both in Norway and also internationally. And when you have to close your physical store, that means that your online presence or lack of it is much more important than it was earlier. It's also much more visible than it was earlier. So if we talk about Norway, online shopping has increased almost 50% from Q3 in 2019 to Q3 in 2020. And online shopping is already quite a thing in Norway. So for that having increased 50% is a huge increase in online shopping. Something Google My Business decided to do in 2020 was they chose to close down their review function for some certain small medium businesses, as they predicted people might be giving out unfair, poor reviews. So meaning that if a restaurant had to close because of the pandemic, some clients that were supposed to go to that restaurant might be pissy and might be like in a bad mood and write a unfair, poor review because of the pandemic. So that is something Google decided to do, that for certain businesses, they will close this function. This is a huge thing for Google My Business to actually do. Google My Business and Yelp have also worked hard on making updating information more available and easy. So whenever you search for a restaurant or a business, Google My Business will have opening hours. So earlier, adjusting the opening hours have been quite a hassle. You have to be an administrator and you have to log in, and it's quite a hassle. So both Google My Business and Yelp have made this easier to actually update and make sure that the information on Google is correct. We also see that near me searches continues to climb in search engine result pages with a 500% increase from 2015 to 2017. So near me searches means that I will be at Nationaltheatret, for example, and I will Google veggie burger near me, or I will Google, I don't know, coffee near me, like whatever is near me. So this is also a change in SEO, that people are using it more locally than they used to do. This is a screenshot from Google Trends showing the searches for the word munnbind in Norwegian Google. So as we can see, it's been quite, there hasn't been a lot of interest in face masks, but around August it peaked and it went from around 0 to 100 in interest. Something else that Google has done, both for the Norwegian side and all of their international sites, is that whenever you search for coronavirus or you search for COVID-19, you will get a page like this, like my screenshot here. So to make sure that there are no fake news and no like charlatans and witch doctors being able to buy ads and climb organically as well, Google has made sure that certain search words will have this fact page. So they are very strict about who gets to be here on top at hovedoppslag, and you have statistics and you have the information. You can look at the symptoms. Like Google has really changed and made like a huge effort in the spreading of information about the coronavirus. This is also a screenshot of how the trends are in actual searches. So we can see that, for example, amusement parks and flea markets are going down in searches, not so relevant when everything is closed, while fitness and exercise equipment, hiking, mountain biking, all of these things have really risen in search engine result pages. And I just know this for myself. When all the gyms closed, I really wanted to get my hands on some exercise equipment to have at home, and everything was sold out. So then, of course, me having the job that I have, found very interesting to have a look in Google, see how Gymgrossisten, Tights.no, all of these different businesses, how they have been working with SEO and how it pays off or don't pay off when something like a lockdown happens. What we see also is that marketing budgets all around the world are being cut as a result of COVID-19. And SEO is one of the more cost-effective tools for businesses looking for making more with less and want to invest their resources in a crisis. So, and studies show, and I have some sources on this, so it's not just me saying it, I have a slide on it. Studies show that SEO is the marketing channel providing best ROI, return of investment, especially in financially trying times. Because SEO it's generally not expensive, and it's free traffic. As long as you do it well in the beginning, it's free traffic that you will have for years. And with all of this in mind, when we know that SEO is as important as it is, why do we still see that a lot of companies struggle with their SEO strategy? And the reason for this is that a lot of marketing departments struggle to prioritize technical SEO fixes. And you also see that a lot of web teams doesn't understand the context of issues, and leaders like your board members or your boss are unable to receive clear reports on SEO impact. So this is a screenshot from SiteImprove that works a lot with SEO, and I'm gonna mention them a bit later as well. But I think these three are really the main reasons why SEO is still being kind of like a hassle, and that a lot of marketing agencies or even like product studios still struggle working with SEO. So how should you work with SEO going into 2021? Even if your shop, your physical business is closed, search is not. I would advise you to focus on SEO. Your content can be available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You don't have to worry about timing as you do with ads. With ads, there's a lot, you have to be really like, oh, I want this ad to run between 8 and 4. And with search, you don't have to do that. It will always be online. Digitalization is here and it's real, especially now after March, when everything closed and people have to do more things online. So if you still have physical services that could be online, now would be a good time to take the plunge. Well, let's be fair, 2019 was a good time to take the plunge, but if you didn't do it then I would really advise you to start digitalizing now. Take your web shop, take your shop, get it online, your order forms, get them online, all of these things. Just take the plunge. And another thing that I speak a lot about when I speak about SEO is the importance of editing your existing work. So a survey done by HubSpot in 2018 tells us that they increased their number of monthly organic search views of existing blog posts that they optimized by an average of over 100%. So I do some SEO workshops for our clients and other people interested in SEO. And this is one of the things I focus a lot on, that if you spend time writing a really good blog post or an article, the minute you click save or you click publish, it's not set in stone. Then it's super important to keep editing that article, especially when you see in Google Analytics or SiteImprove Analytics that this blog post is really getting a lot of traffic. You need to update it, and you need to keep it fresh, keep it relevant, add more internal links, and do all of the nice SEO things to your existing work. Because Google will tell if your article or if your website is old. If it's old and updated, that is gold for Google. If it's old and you haven't updated it in a couple of years, you will go straight to page 4 of Google results. And to improve site performance, the top technical SEO tactic used is optimizing mobile performance. Always make sure that your site is mobile first. always optimize for mobile. Another thing that I spoke about in 2018, and I spoke about it in 2019, and I'm speaking about it in 2020, is the focus on video. So this is a screenshot from HubSpot as well, from this time last year. What are the primary forms of media used within your content strategy? And we can see videos, blogs, and ebooks are the most used form of media. So video is here, and just if you haven't started to embrace video as in your content strategy, I would really advise start using videos. Read up on video SEO. I've added some good links because I don't have time to talk about it now. But yeah, please, just cameras are cheap. Lighting is not as cheap, but kind of cheap. It doesn't have to be a big investment to create your small little video studio and start creating content. Another thing we see is that search engines have changed. They are basically AI machines that try to understand the meaning behind terms. So earlier in the early 2000s, search engines used to be word match engines. So I would search for a scarf, and it would be an exact match of my search. But now in 2020 and going forward, we see that search engines are all about search intent. What is the intention behind the key phrase or keyword entered into the search engine? So I came across this on LinkedIn. It's Auke Grundsma. I'm probably not pronouncing that correct at all. I'm sorry about that. But he has a very good point that whenever Google announces an update to their algorithm, the SEO community panic because, okay, what are the changes? What is going to be important now? Do I have to change everything? Do I have to start working keywords again? And he has a very good point about not having to panic. And the people that don't have to panic are the brands who invest heavily in creating good content that is optimized for search intent. And brands that don't rely on ranking by brute force, building spammy links, meaning adding a lot of links to content that is not relevant. And it's not relevant for brands that solve the user problem, not the Google ranking problem. So meaning what it all boils down to is, as long as you create good content, Google will reward you. Another thing I would have focused on is optimizing your images. This is something we see a lot on Google, both in Norway with our clients and internationally, that optimizing images has not been a very big focus. So when I talk about optimizing images, I talk mostly about scaling them down. So keeping the quality, but not the size of the file. Because if you upload an image, say it's 2 gigabytes, and we, on our phones that we have today, we take 2, 5, 10 gigabyte images that are like huge and you can use for print. But why would you, like, it takes forever to load these images. So just make it a point for yourself. Always just download an image optimizer. Always optimize your images before putting them on your website. Another thing we also see that is kind of new from Google is something they are going to add, or they have added to their algorithm, are the core web vitals. So this is something you will see in Google Search Console. So that is 3 parts. The first part is loading. How long does it take the largest portion of your page to load? How long does that take? Then there's interactivity, first input delay. So what that means is that you are on your mobile, your page loads, and there is a search field, and you click the search field. How long does it take to interact with that click? How long does it take me to be able to actually enter information into the search field? That is something that is also included in the Core Web Vitals. And the last one is visual stability. So that means that when the largest portion of your web page has loaded, how much does the layout change as the final resources are loading? And the last one is something I come across quite often because it's closely linked to accessibility, meaning that if I were to use a screen reader, or if I were unable to use a mouse or a touchpad, when something shifts on the page, for example, there is a buy button. So I've gone onto my page, I found an item I want to buy, and I want to click buy. And if the page changes so that I add something else to my cart, or I change the number of items, it's extremely annoying. So yeah, this is something new in Google. You find it inside your search console, so it looks something like this. Have a look if you have access to your website's search console. Go in, have a look at the Core Web Vitals. Just see how are you doing. Do you need to do any changes? So talking about Core Web Vitals gives us a natural transition to accessibility. And accessibility is also universal design, or yeah, I'll mention quickly what it is. And the question is, why is accessibility more important than ever? And I think that accessibility should be a core component of every SEO strategy going into 2021. And anything less than that is ignorant, and it's rude to not focus on accessibility in the current climate. And it's just the right thing to do. Like, I don't understand whenever I talk about accessibility and people say, oh, but our clients don't have disabilities. It's silly. So question is, what is web accessibility? So web accessibility focuses on designing and developing coding websites that are more accessible to people with disabilities. And this doesn't necessarily mean the extremes, someone having amputated both their arms or someone being 100% blind. There are so many other disabilities that we don't think about as disabilities. For example, someone is colorblind, someone has ADHD, someone is clinically depressed, someone is carrying a baby on their one arm, so they only have the other arm to use. All of these things are examples of disabilities. And whenever you talk about accessibility, you see this WCAG pop up everywhere. And question is, what are they? What is it? So WCAG stands for Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. So it's a number of rules or guidelines to explain how to make web content more accessible to people with disabilities. So whenever all of these guidelines, web content generally refers to information in a web page or web application, like text, images, sound, and then the other side, which is code or markup. So these are just two screenshots from some of our work at Norse. So the first screenshot is showing alternative text of an image. And then who that helps is that whenever you're blind or you don't see that well, you might be using a screen reader, which will read all the information for you. So whenever there's an image, you as a content creator have to tell the screen reader what is the image of. And to put it into more of a context, when we talk about Google crawling websites to understand what the website is about, Google is also blind. Google is also doesn't have hands. Google is like an automated person with disabilities. So whenever you add alternative text to images, you help actual human beings, and you also help Google understand what is your content. And the other screenshot is using subtitles, which I hope everyone that works with video has started actually using. Another example of something that is important for accessibility, but it benefits everyone. Like my hearing is good, it's perfect, but I like to have subtitles as well, because not all of the time I want to hear the sound. Maybe I'm at a bus, or maybe I'm listening to an audiobook and I don't want to be interrupted by some sort of short video I see on Instagram. So then I prefer having content with subtitles. Also, another part is that Google is very vocal about tracking accessibility and favoring accessible websites in search engine result pages. And the WCAG 2.0 is the official guidelines in the Norwegian law at the moment, but more and more people are starting to use WCAG 2.1. So I have written a good article about what is WCAG 2.0, what is included in 2.1. I can add that to my sources sheet as well. And we will also welcome a new WCAG in the summer of 21. Just an example of companies having had lawsuits brought against them recently. This is from 2019, and this is in Canada, so we don't have the same heavy hitters here in Norway, but I predict that we will just see more lawsuits happening in the terms of their websites or their apps or whatever not being accessible. This is a screenshot from Microsoft that I really like to show when talking about disabilities, because as I mentioned, you have the extremes and then you have the situational or the temporary disabilities. So all of these can help or will benefit from having accessible products. This is the timeline for IKT having to be accessible in Norway. So the next date that we're coming to is the 1st of January, where all websites, public and private, open to everyone, meaning excluding intranets, have to be accessible by WCAG 2.0 AA compliance. And then it's how do you stay on top of SEO and accessibility in 2021? So my tip is to follow your Google Lighthouse score. So Google has 41 different audit items for accessibility, ranging from alternative text to color contrast. So Google Lighthouse is a free plugin for Chrome, and I would advise that you just run that on your page to keep an overview of how you're doing. Page speed is an updated part of the newest Google algorithm. Another example of something that will benefit both SEO and accessibility and user friendliness, like whenever you go to a website and it doesn't load, it's worse to have weak internet than not having internet. And I think everyone can relate to that. Another tip is to benchmark your WCAG compliance levels. And if you need help with that, please email me or contact me, because I can help you. But you should have a clear idea of if you want to go for WCAG 2.0, WCAG 2.1, or other compliance levels, and benchmark yourself to your peers and your competitors. And above anything, SEO in 2021 is about creating good content. Write good content, formulate yourself specifically and to the point, use good examples and explanatory graphical elements, meaning video, or use video a lot. And by applying good technical SEO like header structure, help text, paragraphs, you can also help anyone that has cognitive and or visual needs for an overview over the text. So yeah, so why is accessibility more important than ever? For more information about accessibility and how to create accessible web content, I'm hosting a webinar on Thursday. It will be in Norwegian. I just shamelessly added a link here if you wanna sign up and listen to it. Yeah, good. I made it in 30 minutes and 7 seconds.
Thank you, Silje.